Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, anti-theism, anti-religionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion. I support realism, axiology, of course, liberty, justice, ethics. I am also an anarchist socialist. I support anarchism and socialism, progressivism, liberalism, philosophy, psychology, archaeology, and anthropology, advocating for sexual, gender, child, secular, LGBTQIA+, race, class rights, and equality. So if you can guess from all that, I support or challenge that I have an eclectic variety of videos on a variety of topics. Please take time to check them out, as well as if you enjoy them, please give them a like. And don't forget to subscribe, as new things are on their way all the time for my channel. Hi, this is Damien Marie AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can simply be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. And I'm here with a guest. Could you go ahead and tell us your name and a little bit about you?
Hi, my name is Debra Van Neste. I live in Orlando, Florida, and I run an anti-cult organization called Thinking Agenda. It's a legally registered LLC, and we promote education about cults and undue influence. And up to very recently, we did have a cult expert, an educator, that worked very closely with us, which was Dr. Kathleen Mann.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to hear that she passed.
It was, she did prepare me for it. It was a long-term progressive illness, and she did prepare me educationally. She did, try to prepare me emotionally, but you're not really prepared no matter what. So we're, trying to integrate new things and trying to make a lot of adjustments around her loss, and answer questions, from people that felt that she was the monolith for the company. So there has been a lot of adjustments and changes for us.
Oh. And I understand that you're the one that's kind of like spearheading this. So is that something that you're looking forward to, or is it kind of something that you're still testing the waters? I mean, how is that going for you?
Um, I am still testing the waters because when Dr. Mann and I were behind Thinking Agenda, she was in the forefront as the cult expert and educator, and she was a judicially qualified cult expert and the best in her field and just a monolith. And so now I'm in the forefront. I don't have her qualifications. She felt that I would be an excellent educator and could fill that role. She also felt I could be a good legal consultant to attorneys in a limited scale, not on the scale she was on, obviously. So she did leave me. She taught me for 6 years. About cult's undue influence, about her work. So I hope that I can start to integrate that and put it to work now, because yeah, yeah.
Well, I think it's a very important thing because I think, like, I know it directly. I mean, as an atheist, I mean, it directly relates to me because obviously, to me, I kind of see a lot of religions as cults. Or what will happen is maybe the religion at name, like say Christians. It's not that all Christian denominations are cults, but Christian denominations that off come, out of the 42,000 can have a lot of cults, or a group will branch off and become a cult from that denomination, or whatever. But the whole point is that it is a topic that religions constantly are going to keep making cults, not just in the past, but in the future. And I also think it's important because politically, you can have political cults. And I think that also is, I mean, I think that, to me personally, Donald Trump has a political cult. And it's not exactly a religious one, but because it's a cult, it has a certain way of thinking and how, to me, he wants to alienate people that they're not, tell you what to think, tell you how to think, when to think, how to respond to what you think. I mean, it's so in a sense, he's also like a cult of personality where it's just for one person, and that's another thing to me. It's also like the third for me. Quickly understanding the third part of what cults makes it important to understand cults is you can have cults around a person, and they can have nothing to do with political or anything to do with even religion or something like it. It could just be that person. Like, say if they write poetry or something, it could be that they do pottery. It doesn't have to, but there's something about it turns it into a cult. It's a kind of behavior and thinking, at least to me. I'm not saying I'm a cult expert. I'm just saying that things I see as important of why issue of understanding and working out against cults is because it's not just one area. It's like all kinds of areas that are dangerous for this kind of thing to happen. And then cults often lead to dangerous behavior. To me.
Well, yes, cults are about behavior and practices, not beliefs. So that's why I also come across some atheists that will just say, well, all religions are cults.
Right.
And not really know the, definition, because when we discuss cults, the following elements have to be presented in one degree or another. First, there's often a self-appointed leader or leaders who inspires devotion, who makes decisions and limits choices in kind of a top-down authoritarian manner. And secondly, the cult leader, usually enlisting the help of current followers and designated leaders, practices deceptive recruiting. When a potential follower is not provided with the informed consent or information necessary to make a decision about the affiliation, it's often to his detriment. The interesting thing about Donald Trump is these elements are really not in play because he was very upfront with what he was about and who he was, and people willingly voted for him. Now, as far as the devotion and the factions with QAnon, that I believe has very cultish elements.
Well, so I would say the first thing you said, you were mentioning his presidency, and I'm not saying his presidency is the cult. Donald Trump is the cult outside of, irregardless of the presidency. The presidency, he got voted in, but the cult was already there. That's why he, in a sense, gets motivated to be voted in. And even once out, there's still the motivation has never left to keep him in and to make him president. Is it because it's that? So I think the presidency. I'm just making a comment. You brought up the presidency, and I'm not saying that you can't have that opinion. It's like, to me, the issue of it being president, I do not see as much of a factor to the cult itself. The cult was there before the presidency. The presidency happened. The cult was there after the presidency. These people still act cultish. They have not changed at all.
A lot of people on their own will come out of, I would prefer to say, Trumpism, but the core of it too is what Trump stood for and still stands for, and how he made it okay to be the hateful and racist and have dangerous lies, and he made that okay. So it just rose to the cream just rose to the top, and like you said, it was always there. Trump just
I agree with you. So, and just so anyone listening knows, understand, I'm not saying every person that supported Trump or Trumpism is a cult member, but there absolutely is cult member type thinking in MAGA or Trumpism or whatever you want to call it towards Trump. And he behaves in a certain way and talks to them and does stuff to them that is mind control to me. I mean, that's my feeling. And so, just like telling people, he says this, which is like in, I think, Orwell's book, 1984. He said, "You don't believe your eyes and don't listen to your ears." He actually said that. Trump did, in a video.
Well, but also too, like, there was not a lack of transparency with Trump. He outwardly said who he was, what he lied about. He just brought it out, and I think that yes, you could see it that there's a culty zine with Trumpsters or but not all of them.
No, not all.
But that's not, to me, the main core of the issue. I think the main core of the issue is the racism and the inequality.
The xenophobia. Even though he has Jewish, relatives now through his daughter,
yes,
most of the stuff that came out of his supporters were actually against Jews. So I mean, they're anti-Semitic. They're Nazi.
But as this came out, it just brought out that this was okay now, and I feel like the real issue is like racism and the brutality of other people. Yes, he's culty to a certain extent, but that's not going to solve it. To say he's a cult leader is not going to solve the real issues that he and the ugliness and the corruption he brought out. So that's why.
Oh yes, his corrupt. Well, once again, to me, Trump is like an enigma in the fact that it is a cult. He's really an egomaniac, but he's an egomaniac that likes approval, which is kind of weird. And then he also is all about money and corruption. He's an extremely corrupt dude.
He is. Of course, he is.
But yet he also favors racism, supports Christianity in the loosest sense possible. But I mean, but my point is, so he does have these agendas, and I do, because he fits into nicely to the evangelical Nazi.
That's
evangelical in the fact you're a Christian evangelical, and you're also a racist, extremist.
And Dr. Mann really disagreed with the Trump of cult, and she wrote quite a big book review on that book. And
I didn't read the book.
Yeah, and everything. And I have a copy of of that book and some other books stating, but even if it was true, or the evidence was more towards that theory, it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't solve what has he done. And so to me, it seems to just keep reiterating that for publicity, and some people are doing that as a publicity hamster wheel, you know, Trump is a
Well,
cult leader. It's not solving anything.
well, the only reason why I
It's not
think I
it's
personally think it would be
there.
important. Sorry. The only reason I think it would be important is just because if we know it's a cult, then we understand we need to deprogram some of the people. Just like the people that stormed the Capitol. Like
You
ISIS.
can't,
You get an
you
ISIS
can't
fighter,
program
you,
like
you,
that.
you
Hmm.
do, in a sense, stuff that helps them to get out of that.
You cannot deprogram masses amount of people that believe in Trumpism. They have to come out of it on their own, and it's because these racist values are deeply embedded, and you cannot sit them in a room
Oh,
with.
we need to get rid of racism, period. Yes, definitely. And
Yeah.
sexism and homophobia and transphobia, all the shit that he stood for.
And deprogrammers is a really bad word, because deprogramming back in the days was violent. It involved kidnappings.
So,
It
I'm not,
you know
I would absolutely not
yeah, and it's a media word
support
that
that.
really is not a good buzzword to use. But if you want to use it, some people can maybe counsel. If somebody willingly wants to examine their beliefs and their attachments, I think that's wonderful. They should go to a licensed.
Okay,
Um,
so maybe I should explain how I have a degree in psychology. And
mhm,
I had training and intervention of how to
mhm,
get people off of extreme drug addiction. So I see that as kind of similar people that are attached to a thing physically and emotionally, and that people get attacked emotionally in a sense to ideas or whatever, like a cult. And it's the emotional, psychological stuff you have to get them in the sense of what I mean by deprogrammed. I'm talking about if we know that someone has a problem, I agree. I can't go to them. What I can do is inform their family about how to set up an intervention. How to get the
that
best out of an intervention if you do set up one.
But that's still forced, and that's
What's
been
that?
the whole controversy of intervention, and people get in huge trouble for that, because a lot of these interventionalists will use unlicensed people to kind of gang up on somebody who's in a real cult, and then it's a lot of issues legally and ethically. You know,
Well,
you
yeah,
can.
of course, right there. I don't believe that you should be ganging up on people. No, because I believe that no, what you do is you come to people with love. You just tell people that how much you care. You inform them. It's to me a good intervention is like a good philosophy in a sense. If I'm going to talk to someone about how to have reason, I obviously don't tell them about everything I don't like about them. I talk about how to think right. I talk about, so the same thing to me when a family does an intervention. I know that you're right. People do all kinds of crazy things, but I'm more of a humanistic approach. I
Yes,
like what's
people
best
know
for
how.
the
People
well-being of
know
the
how.
individual involved,
Yeah,
not just the family.
yeah. Yeah, there's that word is such a has a big impact in the anti-cult community. When you say intervention, it's like a totally different um, meaning than the way you're looking at it. But yes, we definitely need to show support to families that are like if someone all of a sudden can't speak to their parents anymore because they're so caught up in it. The family members might need more counseling than the person
Right.
involved.
Oh,
And
well,
yeah,
and also that's what I'm trying to say is, to me, when you teach the people how to have intervention, what you're really doing is teaching the people how to express their anger, their hurt, their frustration through love, not those other things. Because if not, what happens, like you said, you corner a person and you tell them your frustration, your anger, or your hurt, and all they're going to do is feel attacked. And that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. It's learning how to, that's what I'm saying. I feel like that what we could do is teach people how to be better at interacting with others in a loving way, in an empathetic way that makes them realize that there's a better way of seeing it. And that's what, to me, I generally try to do, even with people I don't like. I try hard to have a more of a neutral way that I think. I want to let reason be my master, but I also want to have my humanistic heart. I want that my empathy, my compassion, my understanding of their, in a sense, not just what are they experiencing. If I ask them this question, if I say this thing, how are they going to feel? But that doesn't mean we don't ask hard questions. I'm just saying that when we ask in a way where we're, like if we were to talk to our best friend, even if we were to say something really hard, we would reword it. We just would. But if we talk to our worst enemy and we had to tell them the same thing, we may turn it the totally opposite way.
And you've had a lot of experience with conversations with people who have really come against atheism and feel everything that it's from the devil.
Because I've done a lot of street activism. I don't know if everybody knows that I do this, but I haven't done it recently. But I've done in the past a lot of street activism, and I've had people come up to me running. I mean, I can already see them running from 30 feet away, running at me. I'm like, oh, here it goes. I just sit there. This is going to be fun.
I would love to see that because I can tell you know how to break it down in a very empathic, compassionate way, and I think that is missing from the anti-cult community. Yeah, I think it is.
And I want to make the atheist community understand that this idea that you have to fight aggression with aggression as the way to succeed is not the way to succeed. To me.
Yes.
The point would be, even if I could do it, that person's going to leave with a grudge, and so they're probably not going to think much positively about what we talked about. But if they leave with the compassion going, wow, I really like that guy. I really had a good conversation. Wow, he brought up some really good ideas. I don't know if I agree with him, but man, it's making me think. Because in that error or that attitude or that mindset that they're now in, they're actually a lot more deprogrammed to listen than they would have been before talking to me.
Well, they can drop their internal programming from whether it's through their faith or through a cult or whatever, and listen with their real ears and their real heart, and try to process something different than what they've learned. And I don't try to. I usually don't get into any arguments with people of faith unless they approach me first, because I feel like everyone has the right to believe what they want to believe, and cults are about behaviors and practices, not beliefs. So I do have friends that are pagans and Christians and Muslims and Sikhs. We're fine, I just don't cross the line. If you want to have a conversation, it's going to have to be open, because I don't want to be preached at. So it has to be a two-way, and I find that's not usually possible, unfortunately. But when people approach you, like you say, they run to you, I could imagine. I would love to hear.
Oh, yeah, so let me explain how I break it down, because when they run towards me, they're either really excited to see an atheist, or they're really angry.
Oh.
So to me, it's generally one of those two. So that's why I said, here we go, because I don't know. Maybe that person has never seen an atheist on the street, and here Damien is in the middle of everybody holding a sign. And so they'll come and shake my hand, want to hug me, want to take a picture with me, whatever. But then there's the other people that are believers that are outraged. How dare you?
Yes.
In my country or my thing.
My church. Yeah.
I have a blog and videos where I break down how to do my style, because I really want people to be better at helping others and better at communicating their ideas and being more ethical and empathic and caring and really make a difference, if nothing else, just leaving people with the ability to have different ideas without feeling so aggressive.
Yes, and I also think that's important too, because I like what you said in the beginning when you said that, in religions there's cults out of religions, and that was a very good distinction. I rarely hear people say that because it shows me the difference between a cult and a belief system
Oh yeah.
that's doesn't have
Yep.
harmful practices. So,
Right.
uh,
Well, that's why
but
I was saying too. It could be around one person, and I'm not saying one person doesn't have a structure of other people. They can, if it's one person is a cult, where I've said someone could be pottery, and I know that sounds weird to people, but let me explain real quick what I mean by that. By pottery, there could be some certain technique they say gets to their perfection or whatever, and so
yeah,
it becomes so much a thing. And then there's other people under them that go, you have to follow his ways. You got to show up at this time and do this thing and whatever, and roll it this way, or get your own clay, or and then don't talk to your family. They won't understand. Whatever. What I'm saying is it becomes a whole bunch of stuff, even though it's on one thing that doesn't seem related to
yeah,
other,
and that's the problem also with using the word cult too, because people get all kinds of ideas, but a cult is a type of shorthand. It's like it's more like a high demand group or relationship or
Right.
high impact group. And
Yeah.
uh, and like you said, many cults are political, commercial, involve psychology, therapy, counseling,
Exactly. Yes.
yeah, and many cults use also religious doctrine as a marketing device
Oh.
and as a ploy to trick, recruits. So, um, it's this is why like we started the mind model because we want to break it down with what the elements of a cult are because we either have people saying everything's a cult, or you know, or we have people, we just don't have people informed, or they think, all cults are a certain way, like they're all satanic or they're, you know, so that's why we started
They
the
could be Christian
document.
cults. They don't have to be satanic.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even about belief to begin with. So and that's very hard for people to understand. So we think like prevention is, just like you tell your children about how strangers can be dangerous and use different ploys and tactics. I remember my mom telling me, oh, if somebody says, I want to show you a puppy and it's in a van, don't go. In a kind of a weird parallel, we use the mind model as a way of giving people some information on red flags. They could still be fooled, but we feel like, we can give them something to go by. And she did the mind model right before she died. And we hope to put it in schools. It's atheist friendly, it's religious friendly, and we hope to put it in schools so people can know red flags. And that's all,
I
just know red flags. Yeah. And I think
I
that
think
your work is very important, and it's deep, and it's deeper in a different level. So
yeah.
I hope that we can collaborate with you because we
Oh
just
yeah.
love you.
Oh, thank
Kathleen
you.
loved you too. She loved you
Well, and I
too
was going
because
to say too about cults, even if people like to have important to clarify for people, because if you go to archaeology conference and you said the word cult, not one person there will think that you're talking about cults that you deal with. Not one. Every
mm,
single person there will be thinking you're talking about a prehistorical culture's religion. That's what
yeah.
they use the word totally different.
Yes, and that I feel like they should just say prehistorical historical religion, but
But see,
it's
that's where they like the word because to them it's ambiguous. Where they could say, "Oh, I don't say it's exactly religious. It could be a political cult. It could be you see why these cults, or it could be a social or a cultural. I'm not because it is really probably religion, but they don't know for sure, so they don't like to say. So they go, "Well, it's a cult because it's some kind of weird behavior."
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a widely misunderstood term. So
Right.
when I use it, I use it as a descriptor for
Right.
a high demand group or relationship is the way I use it. But that's the word cult is the only way to refer to that descriptor, because if I always said high demand group or relationship, people would still say, well, what do you mean, a cult? So
Right.
I do try to clarify the term using the mind model and Lifton's model and other types of peer-reviewed references to describe what a cult is. But I have to keep it short with the mind model because I see people's eyes glaze over. I get too much into the definition. So,
well, yeah, and I do think it's often even when I talk about things like I was talking about Trumpism or cults or whatever, I could sit here and have to re-explain and explain more detail to all the things I think. So, but we do try to obviously, speed things along, especially because people can get lost. Or let's just say it's the greatest information. If you give them too much, it's harder to remember. And so
yes,
when it's hard to remember, its usefulness becomes lower because it's hard to remember. You're going to use it less or use it, incorrectly because you don't really remember exactly.
And I think that Dr. Mann had that in mind with her mind model, that other models were just so confusing and could describe everything as a cult. And she finally just kind of straightened that out. And that was her greatest gift that she really left to Thinking Agenda. And to the public, I keep saying anyone can learn and use the mind model and teach it in their churches or atheist or humanist groups. It doesn't belong to our company. She actually left it for the public. We're just the managers of it really for now until it takes off better. But I want to go into like your book and what you've been doing lately because you've been a little bit silenced off Facebook and
actually Facebook silenced me. I didn't. So first, what happened is I used to have 3 profiles. First, I had 1 profile, but then it got full, and I had people that wanted to friend me said just make another profile. We'll just friend that. And so then that got filled up, and then I had 2 profiles. And then someone else said, "Well, why don't you just make another profile?" So I made another profile. But then Facebook said because I am an influencer in their opinion, that I cannot have 3 profiles.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do not delete my other 2 profiles, they will deban me from ever being on Facebook. And
is that what happened eventually? Because I know.
Kind of. My wife thinks they did, but I'm not totally sure because they didn't say they banned me. But so they said that if I didn't delete those, they would ban me. They kept threatening me for like a month, but I kept trying to ignore it, and they kept like, oh. So I went ahead and deleted my 2 profiles, and I only had 1.
Mm-hmm.
Then I posted an anti-Trump meme that said that voting for Trump and being Hispanic was like being a Jew voting for Hitler. And then Facebook removed me from Facebook. As soon as I posted that, they immediately deleted it and said that I posted content that was not acceptable to Facebook, and they said that I had to prove my identity. So I sent in a thing to prove my identity, my license, which I already had done 5 other times. But for Facebook and the whole time I've been on. But I sent it again because I am moving and living in different places. So I sent it in, and then it says your identification is being reviewed because of COVID. It's going to take longer, and that's now been 6 months.
Yeah, it's been a
whatever.
Time.
So it's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, my mom had died. I can't remember if she died before now because it's been so long, or after. But my mom died, and then I got depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And for about a month or something, I didn't really do much because before that I had been working on my book, and I just kind of stopped everything for about a month because I was depressed about my mom dying and thinking about my childhood and all kinds of different things that had happened in my life because I had a lot of abuse and stuff in my life, and my family had been in a cult and all kinds of just stuff in my life. So for most people, probably if their mom died, they're sad about maybe their relationship. For me, it was like my childhood came rushing back and flooded over to me, and I felt like I was going to drown.
Yeah, I understand that feeling quite a bit. I really do. Not so much with my mother, unfortunately, because I didn't talk to her for over 20 years. But I actually felt that way with Kathleen. I felt like it was her and I against the world. And when she died, I thought maybe this is it. Maybe this was the best 6 years of my life, and it's over. Then it would flood to me how she kept saying to me, "You're not going to give up. Why am I sending you all my work if I think you're going to give up?" And that keeps me going. But I understand those feelings exactly. I really do.
Yeah, so, and then I was also making videos, and I feel for your loss, and I also, appreciate what it probably felt like. I understand we care about it. But so, I also was doing, first with someone else, I was doing a video series on YouTube. I was going to start, because I've been waiting for someone. I had a historian friend that me and him are going to work together and make a channel about history, but more related to religion and atheism, but a lot about history. And us two talking or whatever, make a show, I've been waiting. And then he got scared because he's in Indiana and he was afraid of, being harmed.
Oh, wow.
I noticed, on a video. So then I had another guy that said he would help me. And he started to help me, and then I got like 3 shows in, and then he kind of didn't. So then I went back to those shows and took him out and reposted them. But then at the same time, I had a message sent to me that this one place in France or something was going to sue me for taking one of their pictures from an Incan burial. And I said, my thing is educational. I don't have pictures on there, and I'm not selling anything.
Exactly.
It's a free website open to the public. And they said, well,
you're not charging for any courses or anything like that either. So
no, I'm not charging. There's nothing. There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing on there. So nothing to buy.
What happened with the French wanting to see you? What happened with that?
So, because they said that I used this picture, right? And I said, and not only did I use the picture, I used it from it wasn't even me, it was some other website, because I went and looked at, what picture are you talking about I owe you for? Anyways, and so I went and looked, right? And it was a thing where this one guy posted that picture, and I took a copy of that picture, and I was arguing he was wrong. He's trying to say, which actually I'm working on today, I started working on today, to write what really happened, but or actually show a picture of what really happened to me. So there's this thing, right, where Peru and Egypt are very similar. Big pyramids, their culture, a lot of stuff very similar. So people have believed incorrectly to me that somehow it went across through Africa or something, or somehow got by boat to Peru, and then that's basically how it started. No, that's not all it happened. So I was basically saying that. No, I know it. Yes, they are similar. Yes, there is a connection. No, that is not how it happened. So I was basically saying that, right? But I was breaking it down. And so I was just showing that these are the things that he is saying, and then this is why it's wrong, And so I was like, you're allowed to argue against other people's positions and use stuff. And they says, yeah, but he shouldn't have used it either.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. He said, because it's a copyrighted picture. And I'm like,
yeah.
I go, okay, well, what can you do? I said, what? And so first it was a lot of money. And I kept talking. I said, dude, the COVID is going on. I go, and you're like hounding me for a picture when I didn't. I have a free website, and I was arguing this other guy is wrong. I wasn't even using it in some kind of a special way. Your picture actually was just talking about what he was talking about. But anyways, so they felt some sympathy with me, and I can't remember now how much you paid, but it was like a couple $100 or something. And I was mad, man, because I had now pay out money. I'm doing a free site, and I already put money and have been paying money for that site forever, and paying money, to do all the things I do.
Yeah,
And I was like, I went through. So then I did also another reason why I'm just saying why I stopped doing those videos, because now I needed to go through 500 posts of my website and remove all the pictures. Because I was like, I do not want to get sued again, or to pay out money for pictures. And so I went through and I cleaned up my entire website and took off almost every single picture, even though probably some of them I wouldn't have got. I don't know. How do I know? I don't want someone to. So then I started going, well, I need to have pictures for my book anyways, and this all the blogs are like in the background information for my pictures in my book, kind of. Like, here's 30 pages of what in the book will be a picture and a paragraph. But this is the 30 pages. If you don't believe me and you want to go read all the information, there it is. But so that's kind of what my blogs are, in a sense, are my free giving to the world, my whole book, in a sense, and all the reasons I think that way. But the book is going to be my ideas, my things in a very clear way, and all the pictures and lines, so it makes it easy to understand. Instead of complicated as trying to read all archaeology.
I think it's going to be a wonderful book, and it's going to be fantastic. I look forward to it. I know you're still you still need to work on it for at least a couple more years, you said, or?
No, I have been working on it for about 10 years, and I'm finishing probably my last picture within a couple days that I have to draw. And I already have all the writing, and so now I'm going to basically organize it all together and then put down what I need to and then get it done. So I don't know, maybe 6 months or something. I'm not totally sure.
Oh, wonderful! I hope so, because I'll definitely.
Maybe a year. I don't want to pressure myself, but
no.
I'm working on it.
It's better that you have it the way you want it. So whenever it comes
up. Yeah, because I make. There's a big difference. I'm a rationalist, not a skeptic. So my book isn't like about a bunch of doubting. My book is actually a bunch of facts and then my reasonable arguments or suppositions from the facts. That's what my book is about. And so my book is trying to understand, how did we get to religion? All of it. And when did different parts of religion come into play? Was it all at once? Was it in pieces? To me, I realize it's all in pieces. I know where those pieces came in, how they kind of spread around, and I explain that in the book.
That's wonderful, Damien. I don't think I've ever heard of a book quite with that topic, so it's going to be one of a kind when it is published, and we'll definitely support you and do all we can on our end to be excited about it and put it on all our websites and stuff. So,
I would say, I mean, I'm not trying to be a big ego, but I would say that I've explained more in one book about religion than I think has ever been written in the history of religion. Because nobody has started from 1 million years ago until 4,000 and explained it almost and loosely. I'm not saying every little detail, but loosely explains it all.
And you put it all together, so it will also be an important book just for even for students, for
absolutely, for archaeologists, or for history, or for I guarantee. And I also so the book is called The Tree of Lies and Its Hidden Roots.
The Tree of Lies.
The evolution of religion and removing the rationale of faith.
Damien, have you been to atheist conventions? And if you have, what's your impression of them? Because I have thought of going to conventions on atheism, and with gathering of atheists, and wasn't sure if it would be something I would really get on.
I've gone to a skeptics convention. I've gone to atheist convention, humanist convention. I've gone to the Freedom of Religion Foundation convention. Mm-hmm. I've been to the CSI stuff, which is the Center for Inquiry. I've been to a couple different things. I think they're all great. They all are a little bit different, sort of. I would say, like, I've been to American Atheists, and the American Atheist Convention is different than a Freedom of Religion Foundation convention. To me, generally, if I go to a Freedom of Religion Foundation convention, I know I'm going to, or I have a, or it feels like, I should say, because maybe I should be just who I'm talking to, but it feels like there's a lot more like college professor kind of people kind of that go to those. So if you like that kind of an atmosphere, not, it's a little more scholarly, it feels like. So I like that because I have that side of me that I'm very scholarly in all the stuff I do. Then I have another side that's more about fun. And to me, an American Atheist Convention is, to me, one of the funnest. So
maybe I'll put that on the top of my list.
well, so I mean, it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for a little bit like more professional, the Freedom of Religion Foundation is awesome. And if you want it to be more fun-based, sort of, American Atheist is better. If you want it to be real humanistic and cause-oriented, I think American Humanist is better. And, I mean, they're all good. I'm just saying, depends on what you're looking for. They're definitely, to me, the vibe is not the same. And if you want it to be, in a sense, sort of more sci-fi and magic kind of stuff, or comic books, I don't know. But there's certain kind of people. Then the Skeptics Convention does a lot more of. It feels like that, at least when I went. I mean, about how they're different. So depending on what you like, if you want to hang out with a bunch of friends, kind of thing, then the American Atheist is how that feels the most camaraderie and friend. When you're there, how does it feel? It feels amazing. Because you're like, happy, like just all these people, and they're all kind of like talking about stuff that makes sense, and it's like, oh, it's just, yeah.
Because I need to expand more. I'm more now. Things have flipped, and I'm the spokesperson. I'm the educator. I do have an advisory council, the beginning of one. I'd love to invite you on that because I think that you could hold so much education. We can work so well together, and I would be honored to be on anything that you're on too. And I just started that, and because it's good to have feedback and good to get a wider view of things, and and just learn to work with different kinds of people and personalities and perspectives. So now,
I agree, and we should also learn even from people that we don't like if they say something that's true. To me, I have a reason, because sometimes people will say something even mean to me, but I go, yeah, but this is something I need to work on or something, even though I don't like how they said it to me. I mean, is it legitimate?
But Dr. Mann was people think like she was very soft on me. She wasn't. She was tough as nails on me. She would, every morning, I would wake up to a bunch of messages of things she was very concerned about. And so she was very critical. So I actually got a thick skin and an open mind from that. So I actually tell people, no, please give me your opinion, give me your first impression, and all the time I tell that to people, and I'm willing to look at things, because I can sometimes jump or make assumptions or hold back because I don't like the person. Yeah, and the anti-cult community is very cliquish, and Dr. Mann was controversial and did not. She just didn't go along with the hero worshipping crowds of some cult experts, and she was very critical of certain cult experts that were very, very popular and in the spotlight. And she knew these people for 25 years. She wasn't just criticizing them, and she would dismantle, in book reviews or whatever, their theories, and they didn't like that. And she just was a strong person that always got a lot of the cases, because a lot of people botch cases and they go to her and say, we went to this person and they were awful, what can you do? And she would just, take in control. So I think there's a lot of envy and jealousy around her, and she was just such a strong person, and she didn't care what people thought of her personality or her opinions, and it was wonderful to work with her. It was the best 6 years of my life, So every day I wish up and had those messages from her. So, because sometimes I would say, oh no, there's 11 messages from Dr. Mann. I got my butthole ripped about something. But now I wish every day I woke up and had a message from her. So, we all miss her.
I can understand that. Yeah, it's helpful, to have someone who's honest. I mean, I try to give correction where it's needed and give, compliments where deserved. I mean, I just think that, and I don't try to do it to even people, like even like when I had a debate and I didn't like the guy I was debating. I told him when he did this one thing, I said, you did a good job. I mean, my opinion is that it's this ego thing that we can't tell other people, even the ones we don't like, that they did something good. I also think it's an ego thing, that for us personally, when we're not able to calm down and, when it's not really important for us to be so aggressive with everyone just because we disagree. I mean,
that's true.
It's emotional intelligence. We need to be in control. And then also, just think, I have this thing. It says you can't punch people in the face with the truth and expect them to listen.
Exactly.
It's about behavior. It's not what you say. It's our behavior. Because you can even say, I love you, and no one's going to believe that you love the person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So you can say, I hate you, and no one's going to believe you hate the person. So once again, it's not just the words. It's the behavior. And that's what I'm saying is, do you see how important our behavior is when you just do that? That you can actually, it counsels. So when we're acting to help people understand something, we think that they're in error. Our compassion, our love, because how it looks to them, is going to come through in our words.
She was so much in the forefront, Dr. Mann, and I was like, not in her shadows, but I was like the person behind the scenes. So a lot of people think I have her personality, that I'm her in some aspect because we were so close. No, I was complete opposite of her. I'm kind of like Switzerland. Like I try to just mind my business. I try to be focused on what I need to do, and not, I could be opinionated at times, and I've done that on my Facebook. But we all are like.
Give us an example. What your opinionated, just so we can have a reference.
Well, there's been the word deprogramming and deprogrammers have become kind of a new buzz and code word in the media. And the history of deprogramming is really violent. They've tried to deprogram people who were gay. There was a woman who was raped while she was deprogrammed back in the days. And it's a dirty, nasty word. And I was critical because a lot of people that are prominent in the anti-cult community are not correcting this, and they're allowing the press to use that term, deprogramming counselors. So I wrote like this meme this morning that said, that it was just a way to just get more publicity and clients, instead of really correcting and being ethical about that word. Because Kathleen, when she did press, and you said and something was quoted that was not true or was ugly, like she would correct it, and that would not be in the article. And so
I would say that one way I would do that, so that it could be in my style, if I wanted to get people to do it, instead of attacking them and saying that's not the proper usage, I would say, well, the professional cult usage of that term is actually blah 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 blah.
Well, I had
Facts.
actually written an article about deprogrammers and deprogramming, and Kathleen edited it, and then I just took it down because it like had no hits, and I told Kathleen, this is old stuff, and no one's interested. But now that I hear this word all the time and it's not being corrected, um, I feel like brushing off that article and putting it out there again. But yeah, and then I had a really great conversation with someone who kind of a little bit like on your wavelength on that it's just the press, it's just a word that the press can grab attention towards. And I said, but there's no pushback at all on that word. Every time I see that word used with an exit counselor or whatever it is they're interviewing, that person never says, well, it's not deprogramming, with it's this or it's that. And I don't read that. They just go along with it. So that was my snark of the morning this morning.
I think that, like I said, I think that in a sense, instead of, because your narrative that you're holding for yourself is that what you did was snark. What I would say is what you were trying to do was inform the public of the correct usage.
Yes. And the history of the word.
You ever see me post philosophy? That people told me, "Oh, I'm so Facebook." Before, when I was on it, hopefully again. But when I was on Facebook, they would say, "Oh, Damien, you post too much philosophy." So I started just posting the definitions. Boom, 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 boom. This is what this means. Because a lot of people, once again, just like beliefs, when it comes to philosophy, I don't like when atheists say they don't have any beliefs. Because they have this wrong opinion that beliefs mean religion. But there's all kinds of beliefs. Political beliefs, like you said, cult beliefs, non-cult beliefs. There's a lot of beliefs.
Yeah,
a belief is the thing that you think is accurate.
Yeah, if you believe you're going to get hit by a car in traffic, well, that's a belief too. So not all beliefs are we need beliefs.
Well, yeah, they're not always useful. We have all kinds of beliefs, but they're not always useful for us in a sense to get everything we accomplish. But you can have beliefs and accomplish things, and they're still not true. We can believe things that are not true, and yet that belief can somehow navigate us in a way that looks like true. But my point is, though, but in philosophy, and that's why I have to clarify. So instead of saying that no one can say they don't have beliefs, which is what I really think. Well, because I've showed before. Well, psychologists believe in beliefs, and so you're doing it for psychology says so. Neurology, the science of the brain, they also understand and use the word beliefs. And say beliefs are happening, can see it occur or whatever it's relating to. Then there's actually philosophy that also agrees everybody has beliefs. So I mean, there's like, but yeah. But instead of doing all that, I just say, well, the philosophy understanding of beliefs is this. So I'm just saying about how I try to get people to start thinking of it different, but I just present it and I allow them.
Yeah, I mean, my little meme was okay. I didn't post it all over the place. But I'm beginning to realize, as being now a focus on thinking agenda, because the roles have switched now a little bit because of, the unfortunate passing of Dr. Kathleen, is a little bit I've got to watch what I say. Because I used to be very opinionated, and Kathleen would back me up, or we'd wind up writing an article, and now it's just like me, and, saying things, and people saying, oh my God, she said this. And so now I have to be more, I hate to use the word mindful, but I have to be a little bit more self-aware of what I'm putting out there is now the sole representation of the company. I'm even careful with how I joke now and a little bit of my personality, but it's just...
Well, that just shows that you're responsible and ethical.
Well, there's private. I could joke, with friends I know, and so I'm learning to separate to keep it consistent, and because and I'm still open to work with professionals and academics and everything. I'm not looking to replace Dr. Mann in any way, but I am looking, I'm always looking to help or be a help of somebody. There's a lot of academics I admire, and if they asked me to help them, I would. So, it's just the future is just changing for a lot of us between with the pandemic and everything. A lot of people have had losses.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, in different ways.
I was already crying about the death when it was only 5,000.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. It was.
I don't know how anyone can look at all that death and not feel the heartache.
Mhm. And also, people that are speaking up about it. I mean, I saw. I think we all saw it on Facebook about a nurse who caught COVID and she recorded all her last moments. I just was bawling my eyes
Well,
out.
I
I
haven't been on Facebook in a while, so I didn't see them.
Yeah, yeah. So, and being in healthcare, and then hear people say, it's just the flu and everything. It just all I can do to, be civil about that. But let's hope that there's better days ahead, and we get this.
We just got to keep speaking the truth with compassion. I know that compassion is easily, because we have, in a sense, compassion fatigue.
Yes, I agree with that.
We've had to have so much compassion that now we're like empathy fatigue. We're burned out. But that in itself is normal. All that is a natural reaction to be overwhelmed. Your mind can only deal with so much.
That's true.
But I think that that's the time too that we got to be compassionate to ourselves and say, you know what? Like I did, I realized I need a month off. I'm feeling depressed, and this is not. I don't usually feel like this. I'm not gonna try to. Because I work on my book doing art. I work probably from 7 to 6 in the morning, sometimes all the way until like 9 or 10 at night. The whole time. The TV's on. I watch TV at the same time, or listen to music at the same time while I'm drawing or I'm doing my stuff. So I'm working hours and hours and hours. And so when I don't work for a long time, that feels insane. It's like I have like this 2 jobs and all of a sudden just stop. But we have to be compassionate, realize where we're going. Well, we see how probably most of us can watch the news 1 second almost and almost feel emotional. Or the opposite. We look at it, whatever, because we're burned out emotionally. It's just too much. And I'm just saying that instead of being okay with that, because we need to remember this is still heartache and stuff, but compassion now needs to be inward. We need to have empathy for ourselves. Self-empathy, self-love, self-care. And does not mean that we should be not caring about others, but we need to recognize that we now are too part of the victim or the, ones that are being harmed. Everybody is getting PTSD in this entire country because of it and all the deaths and all it's a lot. It's like war or something. When a bunch of people die, it's gonna always bother people.
It is, and it sometimes the passing of somebody triggers a lot of unresolved feelings from past deaths, and so then it's compounded, because it's just compounded, and you don't even realize that's going to happen to you either. So, but I'm very transparent on my Facebook. Sometimes I just say like I'm having a bad week or a bad day, and I'll be a little quiet or something. That I've had some good support from friends and her other close friends. I've had good support from, and I've tried to show support to them. So we'll get through it because, like Kathleen said to me, she goes, "You're not giving up. That's not an option for you. I didn't pour 6 years of my life, and you're going to fold up." Because I've told her that. I said, when you're gone, I don't know. I don't know if I can continue. And she goes, it's not an option. So every time I feel like, really bad, I just hear her words, and I'm like, okay, well, what's going on for today? What can I do today?
Yeah, well, I hope you continue because it is important. Like I said, I feel that religion is important enough that I've been devoting my life to it, and cults actually crosses in a larger realm than even religion does. So it goes into the political and the person. I mean, it's very
You would be the cult community would love you because
yeah.
first off, they don't have an atheist faction really to cult to in the cult community or the major orgs. They've pandered a lot to Christian ministries that are teaching cult education, but not really. They're more or less teaching um, you know, this is false Bible beliefs and need to, so, but I have not seen, and I could be wrong, a strong atheist or humanist movement that understands and educates about cults and undue influence. It's either been like the Christian ministries or just certain orgs that deal with cults, and I think it's a first. I think it's a first that I kind of come out of the closet. I think it's a first to work with you, who's so influential.
Well, like I said, my own personal experience, my family was in the local church, and they got listed in the book of cults, and then they sued the person, and the person just took it out.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I lived it, and if that's not a cult, then maybe you need a new word for what that was then, because that sure seemed like a cult to me, and I lived through it.
The story it was a cultic relationship with that church, and it was horrible what you went through, and I didn't even know that about you. I was like, my mouth just flung open when you told me about it. But I do not think, as of now, there is an atheist or humanist organization or anything spearheaded. Now, there might be some people who are atheists and are into anti-cult education, but they don't say they're atheists. But in terms of being out there as an atheist, as a humanist, and teaching critical thinking, undue influence, I don't see, and someone, if there is an organization, please contact me. I don't see that. So we might be the first that really can spearhead something.
Cool. And well, what's so funny too is I'm an anti-theist and an anti-religionist, and yet people go like, "Oh, so you must never, be working with religious people." And I said, "No, I worked actually at a Catholic after-school thing for like kids in inner city." Or whatever, they're having issues, need a place to go, almost like the YMCA sort of or something. But instead of it's all educational though, they go there and then they get a meal, and then they get taught math or whatever English, But then once a week they teach them religion too, which I did like.
Yeah.
I had to I left that for my own reasons that I'm not going to talk about, but I was there for a few months working there as a volunteer, and kids, and they knew I was openly an atheist. They knew I was an anti-religionist. I wrote everything. I never hide anything, which is probably hurt me sometimes. I know that even in one of my jobs before, when I was a truck driver, when just telling them that I was an atheist, they passed me up for like a promotion thing, and I ended up fighting it and ended up getting that promotion anyways. But I had to go fight it. It just shows that just being an atheist, who I am, that somehow that people act like I lack morality. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm a universal ethicist. Believe me, I don't lack morality.
Yeah, I find that too. I put it on my Facebook, I'm an atheist, and I'm very open. I don't constantly write about it, but I don't see how anybody would not know that about me if they even browse through my Facebook. But I don't think that the atheist or humanist community have really felt welcome in this field of study. I think it's been a very sheltered coalition of certain academics and certain people and certain orgs, and it's been successful. These orgs have made millions of dollars, and then now they've branched off and working with Christian ministries, and I don't think It's never popped where I've seen any atheists speak at these conferences or humanists or having a different.
Yeah, I would be willing to speak or to even work with them. That's cool.
Yeah. So maybe, we'll be setting turning a new leaf in that, and
I think it's
inviting.
important. I'm with you.
I'm with you, so we're okay. And I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's been good to catch up, but catch up in a way that everybody can catch up with us,
Right.
and we can be transparent in who we are and what we're doing and where we're at today. And I think this was a great meetup and a conversation. I feel very honored to speak with you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I wanted to say too that I have you're welcome to use for free, but is my thing where I have a blog where I explain my style of atheism, especially related to dealing with people face to face. I mean, it can be done obviously in a video or whatever, but it's meant for, because it's one of the hardest things to do is to go on the street and talk to people. And so I wanted to make a thing of how you can do it effectively. How you can do it where you can be the most maximum benefit. I mean, if you just want to go out there and be angry, then maybe you don't need to read my thing. But if you actually want to make a difference, you should read it, because it will allow you to grasp how to do a better job. Because it really does matter. And one of the things to me I feel like is a frustration for people is because they cannot understand the mindset of others, and so that they're on a different wavelength. People have said this before, probably, but they don't understand what that means. To me, there's like a different layers of how you get to logic. Okay, logic is not the first thing we think of. Our brains don't just operate on logic. We all know it's logical. No, that's absolutely not happening. In fact, that's usually why they call it critical thinking, is because we're not logical. We need something to do. This whole effort of something, or it's actually a group of behaviors. If you ever read what critical thinking means, a lot of people that are skeptic think that they do critical thinking. But critical thinking never mentions skepticism. Not at all. In fact, if you go to the International Conference of Critical Thinkers, they have a website and has this explanation. It's like, I don't know, 6 pages long of what critical thinking is. They break it down all over the place, and they never use the word skeptic. Of course, they also don't use the direct word rationalism, but they do use reason and whatever. But so I try to explain to people, to me, that's because critical thinking, even if someone says they're a skeptic, I don't call myself a skeptic, I call myself a rationalist. I try to let reason be my master. I try to think through things. Now, doubt may be one of the things I conclude is the proper conclusion. But it's not something I start with. I don't start doubting you. I start going, you need to prove to me that I need to even listen to you. You need to support. In other words, I start with zero. I don't know anything. You need to support why I should even listen to you, why what you're saying is credible. You need to have the justification. So,
and also, when I came out of a cult, I didn't immediately just jump into critical thinking. To me, that's post-aftercare. It took a long time before.
You know what? It's still, because that goes back to what I'm trying to say. So we need to grasp, because a lot of people get angry. They're not thinking logical. They're not critical thinking. Okay, first off, critical thinking is a process. Go look it up. It's multiple things. It's not just I think good.
Yes.
It's a whole bunch of epistemic attitudes. The epistemic has to do with the ability to understand and grasp knowledge, the ability to think. So the fact that you're doing this, it has a whole bunch of features of how you get to thinking correctly. I try to make it simple. That's why we're talking about the mind model. I try to make little ideas. So I tell people to break it down, critical thinking in 3 sentences, in a behavior. That we need to have what I call belief etiquette. So that is a way that we approach belief. any belief, any time. So that we should have a belief etiquette. We should have a standard for how we believe, how we keep believing, and how we let beliefs go. We have to have standards for all this, in a sense. Because then we're going to have more accuracy. If we just randomly do it, we're going to have random accuracy if we have a standard. So my standard is that we should have, in a sense, a belief acquisitions, that we should have reasoned belief acquisitions. That in other words, whatever we go to get should have some sort of a reason, a justification, a warrant to start believing. And we're going to believe a lot of things by accident because our brain is like a believing machine. We just constantly pick things up.
That's true. And that's why
having, in a sense, non-trivial beliefs is that bad. The dog thinks you're going to pet him on the head when they come up. You might punch him. I don't know. But more than likely, not. You know what I'm saying? So when they come up, they don't know, they believe. And having a belief is not a bad thing. So what it is to have unreasoned beliefs. So if somebody hits a dog every time it comes up, and every time the dog acts like it's not, the dog is obviously what we would call being stupid or just a victim. So we need to realize that some things that come in are going to come in, we're going to start believing them, but they may not be ones we want to keep. They're an error. Right?
Exactly.
Just picked up an accident and now that belief doesn't work. Or the accuracy of that belief, it's close, but now we need to reassess it. So that's when, to me, we have what I call belief maintenance. I've already believed it, maybe even for years. But we aren't deciding it's wrong. We're going to bring it back out, look at it again, assess it again. Does it still seem to fit the facts? Does it still seem to follow reason with now what I know? Because even in science they do this. They get a little more accurate. They first say, oh, the Earth's not flat, it's round. Not really round, it's kind of oblong, or egg-shaped or whatever you want to call it. Some kind of a less than totally round. Then they it's actually got little valleys and things, so it's more like whatever orange or something. I don't know. I'm just going to point at this thing is what that is. It's not like it's totally wrong. It's just it's certainly more right than flat. Every version was more right than flat, but every version had to be updated and recorrected and recalibrated to get to what is a better accuracy. And to me, that's what our belief should be. Some beliefs, when we go back to maintenance, we go, whoa, why did we believe this? Because now I'm looking at it going, if I was presented with this from someone else, all I had was the information I think I know, I would. So, should I keep believing it now? I think I'm going to just stop believing this right now until I have more to support that belief. Or whatever. So, it's a behavior of thinking.
Exactly. And that really bounces off.
Once you've done, one second again. There's the three things, A, B, C. Okay. So, the third thing is once you realize it's unworthy to fully believe it has a less status than I totally believe it. Then you need to realize, what about it should I relinquish? What I call it belief relinquishment. That's when we realize some part of what I believe has to go. Some part of my belief can stay, some part, maybe the whole thing needs to go. Or maybe it's fine, I realize now I've added a little more accuracy to it, and it can stay. But these are the kind of things we need to do. We need to have reasoned belief acquisition, good belief maintenance, and honest belief relinquishment. And to me, that's critical thinking. Part of it, not 100%, open, but...
It is, and that also corresponds with, that cults deceptively recruit because they spin around you so fast you don't have time to break it down. And at least if you know some red flags, and that's what, just some basic red flags, that's exactly what it does. It puts that stop in there like a speed bump and say, wait a minute. This kind of matches up to what I just learned about undue influence. It's just now, and now the wheels turn. There's doubt there.
Do you have an example you can give us?
In regards to the mind model.
Yeah, that you can explain, or do you not?
Sure, I can explain. Like well, mind stands for manipulation. I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought here. Manipulation, and then indoctrination, negation, and deception. And each one is a module that breaks down the red flags of what that means. Because if you just hear it, it's not quite. It's not quite, like a human friendly. Like manipulation could be love bombing, use of affection. You go to a group and they just love you. They're raising you're just raising those hormones up, and then I would ask for, examples of that. It could be in a relationship too. Somebody wants to use you and they just think everything you do is wonderful. And there is a specific citation for each letter, in terms of the legal definition for manipulation. But, impression management, lying about facts and history, conformity to teaching without question, betraying of confidences, denying reality.
Trump doesn't do all that manipulation, indoctrination. He gets you into his model. In fact, he's indoctrinated the whole Republican Party now. They don't even have a platform because of him. They changed their platform from "we are against Russia" to "we support Russia."
I think he brought out the people that are like him that were hidden. I think they just rose up to the surface with him. I don't think he actually changed people into Trumpsters. I think he just made it okay. And
but see, that is the change. To me personally, you said he didn't do it, but he made a change. The change that it was now acceptable is what he did. In fact, that reminds me, when I first he became president, I cried for about 5 hours straight. I didn't even know I would. I wasn't crying.
Oh wow! I was pretty upset.
I understood that they just got this bigot and sexist, homophobic, transphobic jerk off in there who's going to hurt the country and hurt people. I mean, it bothered me deeply. And this one other atheist said to me, "Oh man, I'm so happy that Trump is." And I'm like, "What? Why?" And he said, "Because now it's okay to say whatever I want. We don't have to worry about what people say."
Exactly.
But I'm saying, he said that. He said, that's what I was trying to say, is to me, what he gave people was the comfort. The comfort to be a justice. The comfort to be a figure. The comfort corporate, dealing where you're being a fraud and stuff. He made it comfortable.
Yes, but a cult leader also manipulates through trust, fear, and dependencies and vulnerability. And really, the way he was voted in, there was none of those elements present. Like
I said, he wasn't. So it's not the being voted in; it's the loving him. It's the worship of Trump, not the getting voted. The worship of Trump himself, the MAGA itself. That's what, to me, the cult is. Nothing, like I said, once again, I know you keep saying the presidency. That's not, if he never became president, I would say they're still behaving like a cult. Presidency has zero to do with why I think that. You know what I'm saying? People voted for him that are not in a cult. That didn't even know that in a sense, that didn't think about that there's people that are in a cult that are worshiping him. They're not thinking about that. It looks like another person who's famous or whatever. It's a big deal.
Trump has definitely cultic elements and connections to people that like him, but he does not fit into the definition specifically of a cult leader like Jim Jones or anything.
Well, Jim Jones is a religious one, and I'm just saying that doesn't. But you would agree that even if you're not Jim Jones, there's other cult leaders that don't end up in that kind of violence.
Yeah, but a lot of people compare Trump to Jim Jones, and I've read that so many times.
Well, that doesn't make it true either. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that in terms of Trumpism, people are responsible for their own decisions and can be responsible for changing. And they're not being held against their will. They're not forced to live in a compound. They're not forced to say "Hail Trump" when he passes by. They're not forced.
But they would.
No, you can't say that.
They would hail Trump.
Because,
There's people that said they would die for him.
there's people that say they killed because their dog told them to as well.
Those people have mental
Yes. So, he doesn't fit classically because people can take responsibility and they're not being deceptively recruited into Trumpism. Like you said, they knew. They came to the surface. They're not being recruited. They're not being deceptively recruited.
They are being deceptive because he's done more propaganda that lies than any other. I mean, in fact, he did more about the lying about like propaganda, like that's disinformation lies for COVID. 35% of the whole world. I mean, I'm just saying Trump is like I said, enigma because he does multiple things at the same time for multiple reasons. He's always helping white nationalism, but he's also helping himself and his family. And he's also trying to help the religious right, who he really doesn't care about that much. He also is helping the religious bigots for a different reason. I don't mean that there's bigots on the ones in like the South that want a lot of the racism and the Confederate statues. I don't think he really cares about the Confederate statues. I think he cares about the base that cares about, and that relates to him doing stuff for them in a sense, and the religious right where he's not that extreme of a Christian. Those two extremes he wants for his base for the goal to get voted. Now, or the goal to be loved so that he can make money because he sells his name. Our properties, they say Trump in the world over, he doesn't really own. They've just licensed his name. He's done a whole PR campaign of his name. That's why he puts Trump meat, Trump this, Trump here.
Exactly. He's a businessman. That's all it is. He's a businessman. He's a corrupt, I don't want to make any psychological terms. I'm not licensed, but he is a corrupt, horrible person. And everything he does should be addressed in the root of it. Just see, the thing is that saying Trump is a cult leader is a cult leader. Those are just words. It's not going to solve anything. It's going to make the person that says that very, very well known, and that was the only goal of that person who kept saying that. But in essence, you have to look a lot deeper than just say he's a cult leader. He's a cult leader. It's not being a cult leader. Is not illegal. Being in a cult having a cult is not illegal.
Well, yeah, I'm not. Of course, everyone uses words for different reasons. I'm not saying it to be salacious. I'm just saying it so we understand what we're dealing with. We're not dealing with people that are using any kind of logic because they always go, "That doesn't make any logical sense." You're not dealing with someone logical. When a person's in a cult, the best you're going to get is an emotional response. To me, if you say anything that's going to be negative against the cult, because all of them is an attack to them or the cult. So either way, it's an attack, which is going to elicit a protective negative response. So to me, I'm not saying it for somehow that to be salacious or to get. I'm saying because I want to understand what he's doing. He's doing multiple things. He's doing racism, absolutely. He's doing sexism. But I'm just saying, if you just focus on his sexism, you would miss the rest of it. I'm not saying it does not. And just like he's a corrupt businessman, that's a totally separate issue. It's like he has multiple. Like if you ever read my card, it says, I'm a axiological atheist, anti-theist, anti-religionist, rationalist, philosopher, writer, artist, activist. You know what I'm saying? I'm a lot of things. And any one thing that you focus on, you could say that I'm an artist. I am. I'm a philosopher. I am. I'm into archaeology. I am. I agree with you. I'm not trying to say that one of those features becomes every feature. I'm just saying We need to identify all the features. That's
But
one of, to me, the feature.
that's the problem, is that they don't see it like that as a whole global spectrum of all that he's done. What I'm seeing a lot in different communities is that's all they'll say about him. End of story.
Well, yeah, because they're being emotional thinkers too.
You know,
Because you know why? It's easy. Emotional thinking is the first, always. And it's always the one, if you push someone hard enough, it always goes back to the emotional thinking. Logic goes out the door.
Yeah. Instead of addressing the racism, everything that he's doing, which is the real issue, because that's why he said, you know, even if everybody in the anti-cult community agreed on this, it wouldn't make a difference. Because nobody's focusing on what this man is doing and how he's destroyed America. And, so when I keep hearing that, not from you, but from other people, well, he's evil. He's a cult leader. It's a cult. End of story. Like, there's no thinking past that point. And then when you try to say, they think you're pro-Trump or something, and that's what I'm seeing. Like, there's this shutdown of not looking at it way past
of not using reason or logic, right?
Exactly.
Well, it's like someone said to me. I posted a meme, and someone said to me, and I liked their comment because it didn't bother me on my Instagram. I posted a thing that said, it was, to me, it was being sarcastic. It said, "What's different than ISIS and the mob that attacked the MAGA? Well, is that MAGA attacked the Capitol?" And he goes, "Well, I think that's extreme." And I said, "Yeah, it's being sarcastic. It's not saying it that it's believing. It's just being a joke, because they always talk about they're against terrorism and they hate anything to do with it, but it's really self-serving." My point. But yeah, I know what you're saying. We and you know what? If we don't fully explain things, it's very often that people will misunderstand, or they'll take their own understanding.
That's true, and that's why I try to explain. Like, I'm not particularly saying he's not a cult leader because I don't like the person who said that or anything like that, although that's kind of true. I mean, I don't like the person that said that, but that's irrelevant. And I've not mentioned any names. It's because it puts the whole thing of cult dynamics on just this flattened statement. And if someone went into it like the way you went into it, it'd be a great conversation. But it's always the same thing. Well, Trump's a cult leader, end of story. And it's like, no, it's not the end of story, because he's continuing, his hate campaign and being, horrible and still destroying, trying to destroy America. It's I don't even care. At this point, it's like, fine, you could say Trump's anything. It's what is he doing? And that's what I try to emphasize. And even with cult leaders who are cult leaders, you have to go past that too. You have to say, what is he doing? How is he hurting? What's his agenda? What are his practices, and go into that, instead of just, because that's very common, not just with Trump, but with other people just write me and say, I'm involved with this church, they're a cult. And I'm like, oh, what evidence you have of this, because you don't like them, or because your girlfriend goes to them too much, like, so it's just a problem in general that I deal with. But
my mom, when she was alive, she used to say all Catholics are in a cult, because she's a different kind of Christian.
Yeah, so it's become such a normal thing to just say Trump's a cult leader, Trumpism is a cult, and then just end it that way. And then
I wouldn't say Trumpism is a cult. I would say Trumpism has a cult inside of it.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Or I should say it differently. There is a cult inside of Trumpism. How's that? Something like that.
Yes. I mean, if you look at QAnon and you look at that's
definitely. QAnon is also about the disinformation campaign to benefit Trump, because it goes on and says Democrats are the evil. You should hate them. You should love Trump. He's fighting for us. He's trying to get these people that are molesting and eating children. Can you believe that? We need Trump. Yeah, I know. It's total. That's why I said it's a total manipulation. It's total lying to get them into the cult.
Well, yes and yes, but it's more like validation. It's more like total validation. I
It's for
wouldn't
their hate.
of their hate that they already had before Trump. And
But see, that's like saying that women have a need to love. So if I use love bombing, then it's your fault in a sense because you had love. To me, love is not the problem. It's
I
how
don't
the person is
consider,
behaving in the relationship, in a sense.
I don't consider Trumpsters victims, and I do not put them in the same category of cult victims who have been
Here's the thing:
sexually.
are all people that are in a cult a victim? There's an interesting philosophical thought. How about this?
Some people know they're being
What does it take
indoctrinated.
for them not to be a victim?
Well, it goes back into undue influence and being influenced without you knowing it. And that's what the mind model, also goes into with undue influence because it is a fine line and it is hard for people to understand the differences. I do not consider Trumpsters being victims of anything but their own.
I know, but let's just remove the Trumpsters, whatever. I'm just saying, because you got to that, and I'm asking a methodological question. How would I, or anyone, or how would you clarify that we all can agree that this is a victim that we should care about because they've been in a cult, and here's a person in a cult we shouldn't see as a victim? Would you say that it depends on their active involvement?
It depends on the behavior. Well, in terms of, a victim of a cult could be somebody who was sexually exploited, human trafficked, who lost all their money to a cult, who lost their children in a custody dispute to a cult. That would be a victim of a cult. Psychological manipulation, physical.
So I have a question about that.
And I don't
So
see Trump.
would you say that the guy that ends up in prison for his life because he stormed the Capitol with the horns on his head and a spear in his hand, thinking he was saving democracy, would you say that would that classify because he went to jail? So is it the harm you receive, is what you're saying?
He harmed other people, so his belief in Trump is not an excuse. He still has to be accountable for his actions.
Right. So, and if he was, if like you said about sex, there's people that have both been a victim of the sex of, say, a guru or something, and then they've also gone and got people for the guru to have sex, so they've been active, in a sense, participants in helping the abused. Would you say they're a victim, or do you just classify, as long as you don't do stuff, is what I'm trying to clarify?
I would say that would be depend on the court and the evidence. Like that would depend a lot on the evidence and the court. That's a huge question that has too many variables in it because if they were human trafficking other people or they were underaged, were they?
What if they both were underage? What if the person was underage going after other underage? Or how about this? To take that out, what if they're both overage, they're both over 18, but yet they're still doing this? All I'm trying to say is that I'm not disagreeing that he may or may not be a victim. I'm just asking, what is the category that you're using to come up with the standards?
Indoctrination is a real legal term, but it's not going to be an excuse for a criminal act. It's not going to be an excuse. So
what you're saying is if you do a criminal act, then you're no longer a victim.
Well, it's like the Manson girls. The Manson girls were indoctrinated, and they all had to serve their time.
But do you think they were victims? That's a different issue. One is a legal issue to me. One is just an issue of their status in the psychological sense, or whatever cult sense.
Well, that's why the legal term of undue influence is something that's still being explored with cults, because undue influence was mainly used like for wills and property, and now it's recently been used like to explain indoctrination and cults and why people fall for this, and it's still a very controversial area, and it has a specific legal definition that either can or cannot be used when you're in a cult. So,
I'm not trying to ask you to corner you into some question that would put you in legal jeopardy.
No.
all I was trying to say is you made a strong comment that no one who is a Trumpster is a victim, and even if it's a cult. And so I was just saying, let's assume that there's something like that. That there's something not Trump.
Are they beating people? Are they taking people's money? Are they abusing children? What are they a victim of? They are just, believing in their own beliefs.
So you're saying if they have the beliefs, I'm trying to clarify from my own understanding.
It's okay.
If they have their own beliefs that are whatever, and they no matter how wild or crazy or whatever, but they don't behave at all. They're just a member of the cult. Other people go do stuff to behaving. Then you're saying those people are the victims, or could be.
What the court recognizes are practices, illegal practices. So yes, you can believe in anything crazy. That's your First Amendment right. But if you go and you hurt somebody else, whether you're indoctrinated or not, you will be held liable for crimes. Mm-hmm. And I don't see Trumpsters doing, the kind of things that cult members really do. Now so that's my answer, because it's not an excuse, and it's not an excuse for crimes. Just like the Manson girls had to go to prison, it's not an excuse. It's about what they did.
Yeah. Well, to me personally, all crime is it revolves around a psychological disturbance. To me, whether it's motivated from some external thing, it generally is. The issue. In other words, like if I told you I have this person does A, B, or C crime, and I'm going to stick them in jail and not do anything with counseling or mental health, and then I'm going to put them on the street in a year, or I'm going to take this person and put them in counseling for a year, and they're going to end up in the street. Do you believe that most people would agree that the person that's probably done a year of counseling is probably a safer person to put back on the street than the one that had just the jail and in a sense, punishment instead of help?
As a lay person, and in an idealistic world, and as a lay person, I would naturally gravitate towards yes. But psychology is not, and so, there's so many different methods of psychology and therapy. And
true. Just like there's methods of philosophy, yes.
Yeah, and you don't know
what I'm saying is, my point is, and I agree, it could be done in a toxic way. Certainly, there's been tons of where psychology has been used in a way that's abusive, or even could be a cult. What I'm saying is that in a healthy way. I'm talking about humanistic. Like I said, I'm always thinking about what is most reasoned and empathetic and most caring. Even like this one person talked to me about being woke, and I said I don't like the term. I feel like it's kind of pretentious. And what I mean by that is I do a lot to care about a lot of issues. It would be easy in a sense for me to say I must be woke. But I don't think so, because there's areas that my whiteness doesn't allow me to know what it's like to be a person of color. Mm-hmm. And my being, in a sense, big doesn't allow me to understand what it's like to be a small person. And to be so bold and strong in my mind and talking and confidence, I don't know what it's like to be timid. And I don't think that, you know what I'm saying? So I realize that, I'm somewhat intersexed and genderqueer, and in fact, my mind thinks kind of male and female. Mm-hmm. But I still can't say I totally understand everybody else around me. Like,
yes.
I kind of think a little bit male, a little bit female, so I think I probably have a better understanding than probably most people that are on this side. But I still know that I don't understand, or could I understand someone even has the same makeup as me? Because you know what? I was raised in Southern California. Someone else is raised somewhere else. I was raised in inner city. Someone else could be not. I was born in Long Beach, California. Yeah. I'm just saying, I have to, if I was born in China, would I not be different? If I was born in Africa, if I was born in India, if I was born in Australia, would I not be different? If I was born in New Zealand or Philippines or whatever, would I not be different? And I try to understand that that's what for me, that thinking that you have not somehow, because I feel like when you say woke, people use it against people, like saying that they're not really, caring about people, which I don't like doing that either.
I have self-awareness.
But I don't even like the personal thing because I feel it's none of us is constantly understanding that everything we're saying could offend somebody. And I don't just mean about religion. I'm talking about we could be sexist, not try to. We can be homophobic, not intend to. We can be transphobic and not be, trying to help the trans people. Because it's natural to make mistakes. It's natural to not be fully aware, like this computer in our brain that knows every social situation. But I need to desire Trump. I need to keep working to be better. And that's why I don't like this idea of like, whoa, I've achieved. Finally, I can just stop. I'm good. I feel like I'm never good. My whole life I'm going to die. And I got to constantly reassess, like I do with my things. I have to have good belief acquisitions, good belief maintenance, and good belief or honest belief relinquishment. I need to have this standard where even in my, I always try to tell people, other people treat me unfairly. I mean, really unfairly.
Mm-hmm.
I try to use it for me personally, not to get angry at them, but to think, wow, I need to remember what it's like to feel this small, to feel this
Yes.
to feel this isolated, to feel this victimized, to feel whatever this injustice. I need to remember this so I can go into my behaviors and be more passionate.
Yeah. Sometimes that's how we learn, unfortunately. If I can speak for myself, I have to learn certain emotional growth to experiencing it. And then once I experience it, I'm like, oh my God, and it just opens up a whole new plateau. And, I agree with that. And like I said, I agree with everything you say about Trump, actually. I just don't feel stuck on that definition of him. I feel like it should be much more expanded into what practices and behaviors that he's doing.
I think we should do anti-sexism training for people, including family members, or give out things so people can understand how to talk to sexists. We should give out stuff about how to talk about immigrants, because even beyond racism, he doesn't like immigrants, people from, in a sense, not here. Because there's people that were people of color that were part of Trump stuff. So there's people that don't get. They just go, well, we're cool. It's those immigrants, those other new people. But I'm just saying, so to me, we need to have compassion. That in a sense, unless you're Native American, you came here as an immigrant.
Exactly.
And so I think that we need to have a totally different opinion about what it is to be an American. And I think that it doesn't start with Trumpism. Really, it should start with us. We all should have a true picture about what it is to be.
We have a history of genocide. We have a history of this. Yeah, and it's just, and even though Trump's not our president, I mean, he still has a growing influence that needs to be watched and he needs to be held accountable for, and I hope he is. I hope he winds up where he needs to wind up. And we can.
Well, I totally agree with you. Except that I do agree with you that it's not just Trump, and I want to make sure that's clear. I think that if Trump died today, his legacy of this behavior, of this type of thing, will go on. And I do agree. It has a lot to do with the racist, white nationalist views of America, and also about the Christian denomination. The people are worried that their Christian values and they're just one man, one woman, and one gender, and or two genders. Sorry, one gender, two genders, or whatever. They think their world's being attacked, and Donald Trump is a savior to protect their world from in any way possible. Is how it feels that some of them think is okay.
And it's sad because I wish I can. Well, online I do know some Christians that are anti-Trump, but around me, most of the people that I work around or deal around that are Christians, they adore him. It's just I just can't. It's just so hard to wrap my mind around that, and it's
Well,
almost like
I'm absolutely sure there's Christians that don't, because they
yeah.
have, an ethical standard outside of cult worship, in a sense, of this
I'm not
person.
saying that it does, but I've seen more pro than con with Trump, and even with people I know that I've worked with for 20 years, I see more pro Trump sentiment than anti, and it's really disheartening. And it really.
And you know what? If you want to ruin religion, just bring political in. Do that. It will ruin it by itself. Because you'll have because let's say you have a church and they're pro-Trump now, but some of the members are not. So what are they going to do? Are they going to stay there? Are they going to change it? Is there going to be a war? It's going to cause a lot of religious problems because
they'll know if their pastor or spiritual leader is pro-Trump because it'll be on their Facebook. It will be in.
I know.
Yeah, so it is. It's still the ripple is still going on and on and on. It's just it's just heartbreaking.
The biggest thing that he pushes on people is grievance. Just that. It doesn't matter what the grievance is about. The biggest thing to me that he manipulates, his ability to manipulate, is just think of everything in grievance. Because even if it's racism, it's a grievance about racism. This is why. And then I don't like the liberals because of this. They eat demons and they worship demons and they eat babies. They do this. It's how dare we let this happen? It's that kind of hyping attitude. But see, the hyping attitude, I don't think that he tried to be a cult. I think he tried to be in a sense on like a TV show, like an actor where you kind of have a persona. And I think that is how it morphed to me into kind of cult behavior. It started really as like an actor thing. Like he was this actor and he was this businessman. He played.
I felt like he tested a kind of persona too. I agree with that. That he was almost like just plastic or just something. I got that impression at first of Trump because I really didn't even pay attention to Trump at all until he was running for president.
Yeah, I agree with you. I watched maybe 3 shows, a little bit. I didn't really like him a lot. I didn't really think about him. And they say he's going to vote for president. I first just thought, what? The guy's not qualified, right? He's just like some dude that does stuff on TV and as a businessman. But then I heard him. I started disliking Trump the moment that he said Mexicans are bringing rapists and.
Yes,
I have family members that live in Mexico, and relatives that are Mexican that live in America. My cousins are Mexican, have Mexican DNA or whatever, or ancestry. So I took that personally.
Yeah.
I so care about everybody, and so to him picking on that, and people that are coming from Guatemala because they're trying to get away from war or famine or gangs, who could not understand that? I mean, to him saying that to me just made me really, really mad. And right from there, so it's not like his racism worked on to me. When I heard that, and I didn't know that he had done other racist things because, once again, I had the privilege of not having to know. It wasn't directly related to me, which I realize is something I have to realize and be careful of, that I don't always know everything that's going on.
Yeah. Well, I hardly knew about Trump because I had no interest in the family at all, or the Kardashians, or anybody like that. And then when I heard him mock a handicapped man, and all the grab him by the pee, and I said, oh, this guy's I couldn't believe it, that we tolerate this, and just it was just been 4 years of hell, 4 years of hell, and this hope that, and he still has to be kept an eye on, because if we ignore him, that's going to be dangerous too. So we still have to keep an eye on everything he does. And the whole country.
That reminds me of what people always say to me, because I say you're in the cults. What's your goal? And I know what my goal. I always go, is it atheist? What's your goal? No one believes. As I go, my goal is we all treat each other like good humans. That's my goal. I want human flourishing. That's what I want. Your beliefs are a trivial thing to me if we all cared about each other and did human flourishing.
That's right.
Why would I
That's right.
care? If you're next door playing video games or you're doing Hamlet, you're next door. You're not bothering me. What do I care?
Exactly. Your beliefs are your business. Your beliefs are your business. But as long as it doesn't interrupt with my body or my civil rights, or I don't want to be told I need to go to your church. And most of my friends who are of different faiths, they know that, we just connect as human beings and share some time together. And, if anything, we wind up talking about cults or whatever, because that seems to be neutral territory. But I agree with you. We just need to look at it from that perspective. But that's not as easy as it sounds.
Oh,
It's a
no,
hard.
no. Well, because we like to do everything, once again, not logically, but emotionally. And it's like that, it was good for me to understand because I read this article and then it brought me to this video I watched on neuroscience and emotions and stuff. And the one neuroscientist tried to simplify it, and he said, I don't remember exactly word for word, but it's close. He said like that the entire time the mind is awake, it is emoting. It is experiencing emotions. There is no time, in a sense, that we don't have emotional inflection, including logic, reason, all that. We don't ever stop. We're like these emotional machines. And I realize why evolutionary emotions would be better. They're fast. Man, they're fast. They're like automatic. Boom. You know, where logic and reason, these things we have to contemplate, think, slow down,
Yes.
I
Well,
get
that's why.
why it's prone to that.
Well, and that's why I think your work is very important because you bring this to the surface. You bring other alternatives to think rationally. You're very congenial. You're very easy to speak with. You're very funny, and I think your work is very, very important, Damien. And I'm really, glad to know you these few years and to work with you off and on things. It's been a great experience, and thank you for supporting what I'm trying to do. And no, we don't have to see eye and eye on everything, but we have the same goals, and we have that's what matters, and we just learn from each other.
Right.
So
I think we rise by helping each other all the time with
exactly.
everyone. We should constantly try to help each other, and that's the way that we're going to succeed as a human flourishing. Like I said, it applies to every single incidence that we work together, we do better. And that's true, though, for my ultimate goal of human flourishing. I want us all to work together, to be compassionate. I mean, these are important things because to me, like I said, once again, since I do get where everything's emotional, then I need to approach things like everything is emotional. So I need to be careful. I need to be respectful or try to understand and not just be understood or try to, listen. Honestly.
I relate to that quite a bit because I can be a little bit like Dr. Spock myself, and I have to sometimes back it up a little bit and just kind of be more empathetic. And so I understand that part, because I would love to just do research and just be in a room somewhere with a bunch of papers, but that's not really how it works. You have to interact with people. You have to bring a new understanding. You have to understand new theories, new things. There's always books coming out, and that's what was that's my challenge, and I'm just going to embrace it.
Well, I think it's great, and I think that it's most important is not to compare everything. I think that we get into this habit that if something is good, it has to look exactly like this other thing. There could be 10 things good. I mean, there's cars. How many cars, and they all go fast? I mean, in a sense, I think that. And that's why I think they fear diversity. Like somehow diversity happens of ideas or diversity of people, everything's going to go crazy. And it's like, that's not what happens. Using diversity of ideas, you get better ideas. And diversity of people, you generally get more ideas, so you get better ideas.
You do. And actually, that's that was what I missed so much about Dr. Mann was she was she just knew how to make a rough stone into something we would just go back, even on the littlest things, like it would just go back and forth and arguing and not arguing and bringing up points. And then finally we had this finished project or something, and I thought, we did really good work together. But I miss that dynamic flow with somebody, because now it's like, I always got to, it feels a lot stiller right now. So I'm working with trying to connect with them.
And that's another thing I think too is that we have this problem that everything has to be finished. Or everything has to be, like going well. There's often times where things barely started and they're not going well, but yet we still have to finish. It's like we all know that once you get towards the end, then it feels great. Hell, almost done. There's a lot of times when you're looking it up and going, wow, this is amazing. But I think that we have to be okay to just keep doing the one thing at a time, and also tell other people, asking for help. That's like, to me, my book is way better because I've asked for help the whole time for 10 years. I put myself out there, I talk to people, I ask questions, they challenge stuff, and it gets better. They challenge stuff, and it gets better. And my ideas change, and my ideas develop, and they get better. So the end product is way better because I have utilized other people to help me improve it. It's like when I first was going to do the book, it was going to be 6,000 pages. And I took it to a reading thing, and they said, that's like 6 books. I'm like, or more. And I was like, I was like almost depressed. Because I felt like if you read all this, you'll get what I'm saying. But now I realize, you're not going to read all that.
Yeah.
So I have to, somehow get all this wealth of knowledge that is impossible to condense. And so that's why I kept dropping off things or trying to rewrite things, and it's been like kind of hard. And I've learned some new stuff, but then I realized I just need to use my art for the whole part that I need to explain the archaeology. A picture tells 1,000 words, or for me, I'm hoping it tells like 15, 20, 30 pages of words. But the point is, and then of course I have to figure out, well, what art do I show you? What art would convince me?
It's a multi-layered process for you. It's not just boom, next. It's a multi-layer process, and then you still have to connect it all together. And
right.
People don't realize that. That's why it's taking you, this long to do your book, but it'll be a masterpiece when it's done.
It's something that religious people will like, even though it's an anti-religious book in a sense. But the facts are so. Like you could skip my against religion, just read the facts of religion and be impressed, no matter who you are. Yeah. Period. You know more things about history and stuff culture than you ever understood.
Well, I'm glad that we're able to catch up and hope that we can have more time. Just every so often, just to catch up talk.
We can have more talks, definitely. I mean, I think that both, especially we can get more. Instead of just catching up, we can get more into working through the things. Maybe we can together. Work through your mind thing, and then we can together work through my thing about how to talk to people. Like I was saying, there's different levels. To understand, like someone goes to logic. To get to logic is a lot of steps. To me, you first is emotional, feeling, thinking. So emotional and feeling thinking is like in a sense the base, or the whatever your base thinking. Then it's kind of a thinking where you're it's like non-emotional. You're kind of thinking about things. Then there's reason, where you're making these tying stuff together, and you're starting to put some sort of groupings and ideas. Then you get to logic, where you're actually assessing and you're evaluating these ideas. But to me, there's a whole bunch of layers. So, like I was saying, when you're talking to someone, you have to understand what do I think. The way they're talking or what they're talking about tells me about how their mental state is of their thinking. And one way you can do that is people telling themselves in the fact that they say things. Like if I said, well, my mom always told me how important it was to trust God. That is
Yeah.
why I trust God. If someone said that, I know, ooh, that sounds awfully emotional. That
Yeah.
doesn't,
If you tell me
that
not to
doesn't,
trust the
that
person,
doesn't sound like something they're
okay.
very calm about. So instead of even bringing that up, I would deflect off of that onto something else that involves something about thinking. I would go, hey, you know what? What is the thing you like most about your religion? Now, it doesn't even matter because I don't really care. But what I've
Yeah.
just done is I've got them to move from an emotional feeling. Now they're just thinking, oh yeah, what do I like? They're not emotional. They're not thinking about crying about their mom or angry that you would attack their mom. Now they're thinking about something. They have now left that idea. So then I can move them from thinking to reason. Why is it that you like that? Now I'm getting them to give a reason, a justification, which is starting to reason. I'm getting them to think. All by just asking questions, I am getting them to do what I want by asking them questions. I'm leading them down a path towards logic. Then they're to tell me, well, why? Because blah blah. Once again, I can hear them sometimes going back into emotions. Well, because when I was raised a child, I was always believing in God. You know what? I want to ask you, if a Muslim said that same thing, would you be convinced that that was a good reason to believe that their Muslim God was correct because they had been born that way?
That's a good approach. I like that.
So
I
what
like
I've done is I'm now getting him to closer to logic. Is that really logical? Is it? And I'm moving them away from. They'll keep often trying to go back to a thing. And your goal should be. That's what I'm saying about understanding thinking. If you understand what thinking you need to get to, it's a lot easier to navigate. That's why I call my stuff truth navigation. My whole technique, truth navigation. You learn how to navigate ideas and how to help others navigate ideas.
Well, at the very least, it opens up communication on a
Oh
level maybe
yes,
they've never
definitely.
experienced.
Most people,
Maybe
but
nobody's ever spoken to them that way, and it will get them curious, like you just lit a match or lit a fire. So,
they
it's
usually leave talking
yeah.
to me and go happier than when they came before they talked to me.
Hmm.
Even if I've challenged their beliefs, because I've done it in a way that was not disrespectful in a sense to them, but got them to think. Instead of getting them to feel attacked and whatever, I'm getting them to reason. I believe. That's why I tell the atheists, like, oh, you can't change people. I go, we change people all the time. In fact, you're trying to change me this moment by telling me you can't change people because your goal is to change my behavior of trying to change people. I get the process going on. No, they miss that they're doing the exact thing they claim they're not doing,
Yeah.
which is, like you said about the undue influence. They're trying to leverage undue social influence against me, and I don't do it because I'm aware of what they're doing. And that's what
Yeah.
about the
That's the
importance of
focus.
understanding how I think, because then you become, it's like changing glasses. You're like, I can see more detail now. I can, because if I don't wear glasses, it all gets blurry. Now that I've gotten older, but once I put glasses on, I can see clearer. And that's all my standard of thinking. And I always tell people too, I could end up being wrong. My past belief, not the standard, is not wrong. A belief I hold may be an error. But the standard of how to assess it does not change. It works against me too. And to me, any person that is, ethical should be challenging their own beliefs anyways.
Yes,
No one
that's
should have to
true.
do it for
How
you.
growth. That's how growth comes. That's how growth comes and discovery.
Yeah.
And you have to, you have to be that. And like I, and that's what is challenging to me now. Is like I learned a certain way, you know, and now I'm on my own, and I'm going to be exposed to a lot of different types of theories and mindsets and that's and I have no backup. I have nobody to run to, but I feel like I can do it, and I feel like this is the work I meant to do, and I just look at it as an everyday challenge, and there's lots of times I can't answer something or somebody just projects a situation. I might have to refer them to somebody else, maybe something that takes a lot of legal work, legal challenges. So,
but I feel like it's epistemic honesty for us to realize when I'm not good at something. Like some people ask me some certain things, and I'm pretty sure about what to give you an answer. There's some things you ask me, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
just like like I said about the Egypt thing, the Egypt and Peru being similar. There's a lot of similarities. It wasn't Egypt. I think it was actually China up here going one way and going the other way. So in a sense, the DNA goes up through Siberia down to the Americas, and that's another line of that DNA, which is now actually in Finland. Dropped some ideas that filtered their way down to Egypt, and so that's why these desperate cultures, in a sense, to me, look similar, is not because they directly, but indirectly came from a similar source to me. But I'm just saying, so that's how sometimes things can look correct, like, oh, look at this and look at this, and yeah, but are you thinking there might have been a parent?
And I think that despite the tragedy of me being on the forefront now, I think that I have enough information where I can move forward in that direction to be more open, be more flexible, work with different types of people, work with different types of ideas. I've always been a very creative person, and that works for me very much so. So
you should do it too. The other person that just passed that you really respected, that is someone who has their style. And I agree. Now you're at the state that it's time for your style.
Exactly.
And if you don't know what your style is, then now is the time to find it out. One way to me that you can help you figure out your style, one thing I did, is I wrote my own personal, in a sense, like a business will say our business model, what I stand for, or what do they call that?
Yeah, I have that. I wrote that on my own self. In fact, she thought I did a good job. I did that great.
So you can always do it again, because guess what? Our life updates all the time. And so I'm saying is I wrote like what do I want out of my life? What do I feel like would make me feel? What is the character I want to project and what I want to do? And that really helped me like focus.
There was a comfort zone with her because I can go to her with everything and everybody, and we could mash it out. And there's just certain things I could talk to her that to this day I probably couldn't talk to anybody about. And now it's like it's all on me. But I'm just taking it in one day at a time. If I need to learn something, I research it. I'm open to people. I'm open to ethical organizations, and ethical advocacy. And that's all I can do because I'm completely different. Some people have said, well, she passed the torch to me. No, that wasn't the situation. I'm a completely different person, and it's going to be run the way my vision is, integrated with her education. So I'm not anything like her, and nothing that's bad or anything. I'm just saying I'm just not anything like her. So, and that's one thing I have. It's a stigma too, is people think like we're clones or something. And I said no, I was totally opposite. Totally opposite.
Well, sadly, the problem is people kind of want clones. Like I probably would have done a lot better or been a lot more promoted in atheism if I didn't look like I do. If I didn't have a red goatee, they would, I didn't look like I'm a Satanist or something to some people, or whatever. I'm just making a comment. If I look like, like an ordinary, person, or whatever, dress and wore a tie, or something, I never do that. But I'm just saying, or I have done in the past, but it's not like exactly as me. But I'm just saying that doing that is, because I just feel like there's this thing in atheism where they want to look good to religious. They want to like
very professional. Yeah.
Normal. And my feeling would be, I am normal. The fact that I look different, I don't know. Are we not allowed to do that?
I know. Thank you. Yeah, that's why.
I mean, I'm not a jerk. So I mean, it's not because you're just judging me because of my looks, and you're saying, well, the people, or because I'm overweight, or because Sometimes I have to be in a wheelchair, or what? I mean, because of my political belief or something. I mean, or the fact some people don't like because I am an out atheist, or don't like that I am an anti-theist, or even an anti-religionist. I had someone tell me recently that I had to hate indigenous people because I'm anti-religionist. Therefore, I'm somehow anti. And I said I'm extremely pro-indigenous people. What are you kidding me? I'm very. In fact, I post stuff all the time on their behalf, and I totally care about their position.
Mm-hmm.
That does not mean I have to believe their religion. I don't understand what people's. That is an idea they have. I don't agree. Not with anybody that can't prove it in reality. Because to me, all religions are conspiracy theories of reality. There's something being offered that is not, in a sense, valid, being offered as if somehow it is real. And that is what reality is. It involves magic, it involves magic beings and spiritual powers and all kinds of. None of that shit is real. So to me, it's not even offering the God. So the God is why I'm way more than just against the God concept. Because really, how about the magic concept? How about and they go, oh, what's wrong with magic? I don't know. When someone wants to get their kid's medicine, they say, no, we'll use magic instead. And then, or they say, oh, we're not going to, use some drug because we'd rather believe in magic. Or even like I've seen where there was these people that were attacking women in this one thing in Papua New Guinea, who were totemists, and they were attacking the women because they believed that they had been possessed by a demon. And so they weren't really attacking the women, they were attacking the demon that was now inside the body of the woman. Although they were torturing and hurting women, so they're doing. So to me, this thinking that beliefs somehow have to be respected to respect people, I find to be just incorrect. In fact, to me, what's so weird is, you respect me being an atheist? And they generally don't. Well, then you've just violated your own rule that you expect me to be held to. That somehow I'm supposed to like your beliefs, or else I don't like you. Or I'm somehow removing your human rights. If I do that, then you're doing that to me. You're saying I cannot be an atheist. You're removing then my human rights. I don't believe that. I believe that we should care about human rights. I think that there cannot be a respectful society, in a sense, without secularism. And what I mean by that is that everyone gets equal. Everyone can be without being harassed and harmed, in a sense. You could be Christian or not Christian, and you shouldn't be attacked. The society should not be somehow, pledged against you. Like if I go to Saudi Arabia, they'd kill me. I'm a terrorist.
Oh, yeah,
Why? Because I'm an atheist. And that I've actively gone against Islam. And there's Christians that have even on YouTube said they want me to die. They hope that they kill me. I had someone when I said I was just going to do a thing against the bigotry of Trump, everyone was welcome to come, including Republicans, whoever. Just that we're against bigotry, but because I am an atheist and did that, and I said religious people are welcome to come, whatever. And I was going to do it in Indiana because that's where Mike Pence was, and I felt like he's one of the bigots that are the religious kind of want that a religious repression world or whatever, religious domination over America. And so I wanted to go there. And when I said I was going to go there, I got a message about I should be hanged. And I should be hanged. Not because I was just saying let's fight against oppression and stuff. And I'm an atheist. So really, I was being threatened just for being someone who doesn't believe in a God. Yeah. And so to me, it does matter, though. I want to understand that the ideas are not connected to people. In fact, I have compassion. Even if someone's in a cult and someone does stuff, I hope they get better thinking. I hope they have compassion. I understand. Even people that are you said Trumpers that you don't feel are victims. I feel that in a sense it's not that I have to respect them as victims. I have compassion that we all need to change. All need to be more caring. Period. Trumper or not Trumper, religious, not religious.
And but the problem is a lot of Trumpers do think they're caring and still have those beliefs. And so it's just, it gets into a stickier rabbit hole with them because they say, well, I volunteer for this organization and I sponsor a child and do to another third country, and I give my money away to good causes, and I support family members. So they have a justification. They say I've been working, I'm educated. So it's a sticky rabbit hole, with with Trumpsters, really is. I've had quite a few interesting conversations with them.
Right, but so let's just take that. So what I do a lot, which is called dignity tax, which I didn't explain in talking about what are emotions, but dignity tax to me, we're constantly in a state of dignity would be like you're totally relaxed and peaceful. Whenever your dignity is attacked, to me, is that state becomes not peaceful. You all of a sudden are reacting. You're getting challenged in a way that makes you feel undermined. And so to me, what I do is I do dignity attacks on behavior, not on people, or I do it on ideas. Dignity attacks to ideas, because ideas can change and behavior can change. And then what I try to do is motivate through that to change behavior. So my goal is not to dignity attack. My goal is to change to the new positive behavior that I have made them realize is important. One way
but then you will have Trumpsters, because I've had that, because I've been in
Trumpster. I have a blog where I talk to him for 3 days. And he's black and he's from Canada. And I talked to him for 3 days, and I got him to admit that he was wrong.
I haven't seen that one. Didn't you talk to somebody else?
I talked to many people and got them to, and I even said, watch what I do. I even say in the blog, I say, watch this, because I know what I'm doing. I tried, didn't work, and I go, see, it didn't work. He's not ready yet. Try it again. Oh, see, it worked. And one of the things that I do, I call it undeserved kindness. Man, that's powerful. That is, because it shocks them. Totally rocks their world. Undeserved kindness. I'm telling you, we're not. Once again, you know why I'm able to do that? Because I know we're emotional beings, so I know they're emotional. So I know if I hijack their emotions, they can happen. And I'm not trying to do it in a sense to, like you used to say, undue influence. I'm trying to influence them to better behavior.
To just to me, you're trying to get them to a level of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And through self-awareness, they start to take responsibility for their thinking and their actions, and self-doubt themselves if what they're really believing in is truth and can be honest and truthful towards other human beings. And that's
right. So you say that, okay, let's just say that we think different about Trump. Do you believe it's right to call me names? Do you believe it's right for me to call you names? Do you think that that's when productive communication happens? Do you think I'll understand you better when you call me names? You start getting it, and then you say, you know what, I think people that call people names like that, especially if we're trying to talk, you're intentionally being a troll or disruptive. Is that what you're trying to do? That's a dignity tag, because I've now put them into place where they either are this or they defend that they're not. And so then I'm trying to get them to see, and if they say, well, I am and I don't care. And then I would say, what do we call those kind of people? What do we call those kind of people who do not care? We call those patriots. Okay? So what behavior makes a patriot not a patriot? What behavior would you say a patriot is protecting that is so important to be a patriot over? When you say you're a patriot of America, what is the thinking that you're trying to project? That America is what? Careless? That America is selfish? I mean, you're attributing that to greatness? Well, then I need to know what you mean by greatness. Because maybe we're using the word greatness differently. Because to me, if you ask me what's greater, someone who kills someone or someone who heals the sick? I think someone who heals the sick probably going to be, without knowing more information, the better one. They're doing something productive. Although, what if the person that's killing is fighting against people that are trying to kill us? Then that could be different. But the point is, generally, the assumption for me should be that who is doing the stuff to care, who is making a productive thing. I want to be a productive person. I spent my childhood not being productive, and I was abused before that to make that seem like it was a reasonable thing that I didn't change. But I've spent the rest of my life. I've probably spent over 20 years trying to be a better person.
You have. You've done phenomenal work, and you've really have at least have some. It may not work on everybody, but the people that it works with, you can tell they're at least open, and that's what counts. Is you pop open that lid, and that's very important. I don't think everybody would go for that, because I had some Trumpsters that say, who are you to tell me how to think or what to think? If this is what I want to think.
And you know what you say to that? You buy what they're selling. Okay, explain it to me. What do you think that liberals don't get? What do you think you're correct? And then how does that relate to how you raise children? How does that relate to a better society for all? How does that relate to better government or whatever? I would start. In other words, once again, I would go back to my thing of that you need a justification to justify things. You need to have reasons. And so I would demand that people start giving valid reasons. And then when they give reasons, then I would question through axiology, which is value judging. I would value judge, is what you're offering reasonable? So that's why it's my hammer of truth, where I also have blogs that explain all this. That I do is, in a sense, kind of questions. So there's three basic types in philosophy that I've addressed. Ontology questions, which are like, what are you talking about? You have to grasp that correctly for two reasons. A, you need to understand. Otherwise, you, in a sense of philosophy, you could straw man their ideas. Say something that doesn't relate. The other thing is, you've not made them hold them accountable to what they believe. Make them hold accountable. I support Trump. Okay, what parts do you support? And tell me, is there any parts you don't support? I support everything. So you're okay if he does something that's racist? Well, no. You're okay with him doing something sexist? No. See what I'm saying? Oh, so maybe not everything? Well, no. Okay, not everything. Now we're on the same page in the sense that the first thing of undue influence loyalty can be removed by digging into it through, in a sense, a compassionate way of just making them justified. Okay, if they say that, how you get rid of people is you stop fighting. The art of fighting without fighting. Like I said, they come running at me, right? I told you. And I love it. Whatever. They come running at me, I'm laughing because I already know what to do. No matter what they say, I already know what to do. Because and we're emotional beings. See, I understand the ontology of true human minds. So unless you're insane and don't think at all, or somehow your brain is disrupted, but even then, I still know, because I did for addiction, I still know how to talk to people that are high, drunk, unreasonable. Because those are the people that need counseling probably the most.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So it really is about me. I have to stop being selfish. I have to. When people come in like this, I lose me. There's nothing for them to attack. I'm home. I'm way up on a mountain high looking down. He's not attacking me. He's someone at the gates, and I need to talk to him. So when he comes running, right, he's like, how dare you stand out here, this sign that says you don't believe in God? What are you, some kind of an immoral Satanist? And I didn't defend myself, because that's only an argument. Rather, I just, okay, tell me what you believe. That's all I say. And I know that's the correct response, because it does not matter. He will now stop being so emotional. He just calmed down a little bit. Well, I thought I thought you were gonna, you'd fight me, and you're kind of acting different. I said, okay, well, just tell me what you believe. I mean, I don't. How do I know I even disagree with you? I don't even. You come running up. I don't even know. But tell me what you believe. We'll hear it together. Maybe you have something that will, impress me. I don't know. I don't talk to you yet. Talk to me. See, I need to talk to others like I would talk to a friend, even if they are not. Because that actually, we're not, we're a social species, to give you understand, for sociology perspective. We're a social species. So much so, when you isolate us, you just remove some people, you start to get psychological problems. That's how much we need people, in a sense. We need interaction, and lots of it, and positive would be best. But we need positive interaction if we can. So we need this stuff. So we're, in a sense, programmed through evolution to automatically adapt to this social environment, kind of. So what I mean by that is, when I smile, you automatically feel the feelings. You can't even help it, because smiling means things are good. You should be happy. You just start seeing smiling, or seeing mad, seeing pissed off. It makes you psychologically react differently. And to me, that same thing is in how we tone, how we project, how honest we seem. If we seem that we're hiding stuff, or we seem like we're caring, people judge. We're constantly judging.
Judging.
So we have to stop that.
Do that. It's easier to do that than to honestly take a step back and ask questions.
Or like I was saying, with what I try to do is not even step back, but step above. Like, I'm not even me anymore. I'm this counselor that's looking down at these two people talking, and I'm trying to help them relate better. I try to take like a totally removed opinion, in a sense, because I can get offended. I'm telling you, I can get offended on lots of stuff. I have massive opinions. So if I go into my thinking with all my biases, am I going to really end up with clear thinking? Can I really be sure this is the correct, or not just I want it to be? But if I'm always trying to make honesty, truth, reason guide me, and not my emotions and my ego, to me, the ego is not your amigo. To me, this thing people have, like, you do know that people sometimes will care more about their ego than their family, than their own life.
Yes.
That's just insane.
But it's true. Trump is a good example. Trump's a perfect example of that. So it's just all about him.
But he should be also a lesson for all of us. Look at what happens when we let ego alive. It's not productive. It's destructive for us. He's hurting himself all the time, and everybody else. And everyone it touches, it's like this dirtiness that just smears itself everywhere.
That's a good.
I don't want to do that. I want to, and that's why I've told you before. I said one way. So how are you so kind? I go, I die to my ego. I just say, die. It doesn't have any value. It isn't there. It doesn't matter. Because when you can do that, you can have a genuine conversation with the complete fucking asshole who thinks totally different, and you fucking hate every minute talking to them. But you can. And I have a video where there's a guy I talked to, and I pretty much did not like talking to him for 10 seconds. And I have an hour video, and I basically kept telling him, "You're wrong. I don't agree with you. No, what you did was abusive." So no part of that is Damien being wishy-washy and going, "Oh, let's just get along. My style is just always letting people do whatever, bullcrap." No. What I did is I have a very high standard that I try to achieve, and I hold myself to. And then if I fail, I admit, and I try to keep pushing higher. I also hold other people, especially when I talk to them. You're going to talk to me like a human being, and I'm going to talk to you like a human being. And if you don't talk to me like a human being, and if you treat me bad, and you treat me rude, and you call me names, I am going to hold you accountable. I'm going to tell you you're an abuser. I'm going to tell you that you're using, toxic language. I'm going to tell you using logical fallacies. I'm going to tell you that you're having low character and low integrity in intellectual pursuits or whatever. It's about this bad behavior, and as soon as you stop it, even if you spent the whole time talking shit about, I will change. I will welcome that new behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do that, what that does is fortifies that behavior, because then they kind of think, well, maybe, okay, that was a positive thing, and they can actually maybe grow from there. So it's not, for me, it's not a goal. Like, I feel like some people feel like if the moment you talk to someone, they need to already think your way. I don't think that. What I want is that I've made you think. I mean, I've really made you think. That's my goal. That's why, to me, like, people are like, man, I don't feel like, I'm making a difference. I always feel like I'm making a difference. I don't believe I've ever talked to someone over 5 minutes about thinking, and they didn't go, yeah, I'm thinking about something. And that's my goal. I am a rationalist. I want you to think. You need to think better, think more, and how you think better, you think more. It's like if you say, how do you do a best as a sport or best as in anything? It's practice and practice and more practice and years of practice and more practice and yet more practice. Then you become expert or whatever. And then sometimes you still have to practice, or you lose some of the ability of even as an expert.
Keep up your skills.
So to me, it's no, thinking is no different. Thinking is not special. It's another thing. It's just a tool. It's in a sense because our mind's emotional. So thinking to me is a strategy that we have. So it's a tool. It's like a way of doing things that's better than just random thinking, just random emotional moving all over the place without any thought at all. But even when that happens, we still should be compassionate, because who of us have not felt that before? and even if I never felt it, I should have compassion, because I know it is common to feel that. And to me, I also know, like, when it comes to belief, a lot of times it's not just a belief like as an atheist I would see a belief. I would see a belief that's separate from you, where most people see beliefs as one with themselves. In other words, to attack the belief is to directly attack the person. People say, people don't go, I believe in Christianity. They just say, I am a Christian.
Yeah.
I am. Not, oh,
and I believe,
in Christianity, right? You're saying that the beliefs are convincing to you. When would you say was the first time that you were convinced? Well, I believed all my life. Oh, so when you were a child, you were convinced. What evidence were you given that made you convinced? Okay, well, I don't know. I always believed. That's interesting. So there wasn't evidence that came to that belief? Have you ever thought about updating the belief or rechecking if that childhood belief was still an accurate, fully the way that you thought it was? Oh, I know it's correct. Really? What's correct about it? So what I'm saying is, if you ask all these detailed questions, you are attacking their position, but you're doing it in a way that's not, in a sense, fighting stuff.
You're breaking it down to a smaller and smaller particle. So you can't eat this question. Okay, well, break it down again. Try to eat this one. Try to break it down again. Eat this one. And that takes a lot of dedication, Damien. It's one thing like, I teach.
I always tell people, to me, really, it's compassion. I feel people. I believed as a Christian for 35 years, and I don't know how, but I did until someone helped me think better. My wife, really. She's always asked questions like, damn, you asked the best questions. I don't know. I never thought about it. I don't think about things. And she's like, well, you need to think more. And so, really, if it wasn't for her, I would never even became better at thinking. And I went to college, and I still was thinking more. And people started, everything at college I learned to be the biggest and first thing that totally affected my life was, I thought, I don't know if I heard it on right-wing media or what, I don't know where, but I had some impression that Haagen-Dazs ice cream was started by a Mexican person who used a German name to hide that they were Hispanic.
Oh, I never heard that.
It's not true. I said I believed it, and I don't know where I had heard that nonsense, but I used to be right-wing nut job. So even though now I'm like a left-wing anarchist and socialist, I did used to. So I remember what it's like to be totally off the deep end in that area. So
Yeah.
one time I thought humans were like going to be used like cows. I mean, I was crazy on the talk radio and Rush Limbaugh and all that nonsense. I mean, I think about it now. I can't even imagine me standing that for a minute, let alone desiring to listen to it at all. But I was different. I didn't think. I just was like a mindless. Okay.
That's how I felt when I was like, very religious. I just felt like I just believed everything. I didn't question nothing. So I jumped from
Yeah.
religion to religion. And I'm fine. Like, if people really have, a reason to what they think is adequate for them. But I don't even think I was like that. I just like was a Christian, then I was pagan, then I was into Eastern mysticism, and I just hopped. I never thought not only why was I doing this, but what how come these beliefs don't even make any sense. But it was just something unfulfilled emotionally that I had to work out. But anyway, it's been very enjoyable talking to you, Damien.
Yeah, great talking to you. And truly, I do really think that you're doing good stuff. I really do believe in you. If I didn't, I would not waste my time. And I do think that the cult stuff, I don't know why more atheists don't see the importance. I'm dumbfounded. How do you not see this as important?
Right, yeah, but we could be the start of a new movement with atheists getting involved but so they just grabbed onto all these Christian ministries that are now like cult experts, but I have not seen anybody grab onto the atheist-humanist audience for awareness or for speaking engagements or having an organization. And I want to really flip that where really find this, because
and I'm willing to help you. I'm totally willing to help you. I totally think fighting cults is absolutely vital. So,
and I think with the way that you look at things and the way it sounds culty the way I'm saying it, but it'd be a new leaf, a new page being turned.
Well, that's like I said to someone before, where they said that propaganda is all bad, and I said science education is propaganda, and that's not bad. You're just.
And another thing I too with the anti-cult movement, and I'm completely shunned by the anti, is why is it that when you come out of a cult, your only resources are to go back into a religion? Like, you're not taught to think, you're not taught about why this happened to you.
True. I mean, I went from my mom's cult to my own religion.
There's nothing in between, because the churches that are mega churches, they're branching into the anti-cult organizations and having all these seminars and whatever, like conferences.
But it still doesn't bother me that they get involved. Everyone should be involved. This is a serious problem.
Well,
I do agree with you. It shouldn't just be them.
Yeah, I feel like if it's your informed choice to go back to being a Christian, but at least have an option before you do.
Well, I don't think it's ethical not to have an option. You shouldn't be guiding someone towards religion. Because like I say, I don't guide them towards atheism, and I've already said multiple times, the only thing I try to guide people to, the only thing I demand that you have is reason. That's it.
And so there's a lot of like corruption and money funneling, and that's what Kathleen stood against, and that's why she was shunned, and because she saw right through that, because she was from the beginning of when all of these orgs started, and she completely disenfranchised from them. She was an atheist, and so now
Well, like I said, I'm willing to help you, and I do hope that you get more of a success, and do what you're doing is important. So please don't stop.
No, I won't, and I'm really feel fortunate that we've reconnected and just rekindled an interest. I feel very fortunate, and I'm very grateful, Damien. So thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, I'll let you go.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.